What's up, everyone? You're listening to the Monarch Files, your weekly breakdown of each episode of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, part of the Watching Now series on Couch Soup. Be sure to subscribe to keep up with all the monster action and like and comment with what you thought of this week's episode. On the task force this week, we have Brandy.
Hello.
Tom.
Yo.
And still alive, Lily.
Hello there.
Hello there. And of course, you have me, your host, Dan Morris. We are here to talk about episode 8 of Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Birthright. So, to kick us off, everyone, let's do our non-spoiler first impressions. Let's go with you, Lily, since you're coming back off of a break.
Yes, it wasn't a break of resting. It was a break of me being sick, basically. But you all know that because I left a Christmas message for everyone.
Everybody knows.
I'm so nice.
Our loyal fans are well aware.
Yes. Well, I'm still salty. That started with that. My boy is in the background so much that I'm like, what?
Wyatt?
Why? That's Wyatt as well. And Kentaro.
But Wyatt's her boy.
Yeah, Wyatt is my main boy, but Kentaro is my boy as well.
So Kentaro is the B side, the side boy, boy side.
Yeah,
side
exactly.
boy.
Exactly. So I'm like, why would you do this to my poor boy? Both of them, to be fair, both are just suffering in the background, and then just lazy asses are just in the. Never mind. Anyway. It was all right. It's meh. I didn't have much problem with it. It was like we're finally moving ahead, but as I expected it, we're gonna leave the main stuff for the last 2 episodes. I can already tell that we had episodes that we didn't need. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like
it could have been 8 episodes.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, you probably could have cut 2 of those more character heavy filler episodes.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. And I still think we should just leave all the romance and love triangles behind. Why do we need that?
Except for the main Randa and Shaw and all that stuff.
Because you need the human drama for the people who want human drama.
But you have enough human drama in there without that.
Yeah.
So it's not necessary for the plot. It's literally just like a distraction. I would much rather have them do more politics and whatnot than have this, to be fair, because it feels forced.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Well, thankfully we didn't have that in this episode.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
there was some tension. Some little sexual tension. Maybe.
There's no big blocking this time because Lee's too nice.
True.
Just saying.
Well, Tom, what are your first impressions?
Again, it was pretty much mostly a meh episode overall. However, there were some points where I was like, that's interesting or that's cool. Like how some characters, they did some things, keeping spoiler free, that I was like, this is interesting. I like how this is going. It ties back to everything else. I'm like, this is nice and I like it. But I am, again, agree with Lily that it is annoying how all the really important cool stuff is being shoved to the very end.
Yep.
And then I have a feeling
that TV shows work, isn't it?
I know, and I hate it regardless.
Or I wonder if there's going to be a movie or another season.
We'll save those theories for the end.
That's enough that I hope they don't do that. I don't want that. But I have a feeling that it's not gonna.
Yeah.
I have bad feelings of how they're gonna end it. But overall, it was okay. Not my favorite, but not my least favorite one.
Okay. Brandy, how about you?
I thought it was a pretty fun episode. I liked everything going to the I'm trying not to be spoiler. Sorry. Between
adjectives.
Current and past, I like how they tied those together. That was really interesting, and it felt like it moved the story along a bit. I feel like we're starting to get somewhere, trying to understand Shaw and his motivations. So that's kind of interesting. But I mean, it was. I enjoyed the episode. I want to know what's going on. Still, every episode I say that.
That's just your motto now.
I can't.
That is my motto.
I just keep thinking
Put it on
about
t-shirt.
between like all of you talking about the episodes and like your issues or your enjoying aspects. You all just keep saying like the same stuff we've been saying. Like we're episode 8, we have 2 left, and we're still saying the same stuff.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, I'm sorry that
that's
we're
why
making so
I-
I am liking the season. I am liking the show. Again, I'm trying to go in with no expectations because every time I do that, I get fart boys.
well, there is no expectations here. With
Witch farts.
The witch
Fucking
farts.
witch farts.
The witch fart blown up balloon boy. Anyways, this is gonna get cut, so let's move on.
No.
No.
So yeah,
Keep it
I thought this was a decent episode. I enjoyed it. It moved at a good brisk pace. There was a lot of good like exposition of like moving the plot along in a direction that I'm happy about, as well as not ignoring but not touching too hard on some of the other stuff that we haven't been caring about. But also we get some new insight and information to the overarching narrative. So yeah, I thought this was a pretty good episode. But it sounds like we're all kind of all over the place on this one. So I'm curious to get into it and break it down. So let's do that with our spoiler review. All right, so opening scene on this week's episode, we see Billy and Keiko as they're driving and talking about a kid. And then we see Keiko turn and she's addressing Shaw. And this looks like a shot taking place in one of the first scenes that we saw on the show where they were on their way to that the Kazakhstan
Yeah.
location. So this was actually pretty interesting because then we like obviously they're talking about Hiroshi and Keiko does reference Hiroshi. So it's like, okay. This is a discussion that they're having that from Shaw's perspective, kind of flashing back. And then it jumps to 2015 and it seems that this is actually Shaw's like reminiscing on this memory as Duvall is letting him know that they're getting close and they're on their way to Kazakhstan. So it's like, we're starting to get some things kind of coming together, bringing us back around at the beginning of where everything started. And I can't help but be like, is Keiko still alive?
Look, I'm still in the camp of she dead.
She got eaten and turned into bug
But
poo.
then like something happened at the end. I'm like, there could be a possibility, and I don't want to admit it because then I admit that you could be right.
You can't admit that.
I can't admit fault, but like, maybe. Ugh,
Nah.
I feel dirty.
Nah.
Well,
She's not alive. She's not alive. Like, that would be the easy way out. Let's be fair.
If she's alive, I call bullshit.
Yeah, exactly. Same.
like it's the first time you've done it for this show.
Name 3.
3.
This would be the biggest bullshit. Let's put it that way. Like, it's like like the plot armor thing that I hate in everything. Like, if you decided to kill this character, don't bring him back or bring her back, because it's like, what was the point of killing them? Like,
Because
was
if they say she's like surprised not dead, that kind of like undermines a lot of like Shaw's character as well. Because like everything for the past like 50 years that he's been doing.
Well, Shaw and
has
Randa
been-
both, like all their initiative
Everything.
and drive and motivation.
or everything they have set up in here to like sort of build up on Randa's character and Shaw's character, especially like in Con Skull Island and the rest of this show, it would just like completely be like, oh, lol, JK. Turns out she didn't die. Whoopsies.
Well, yeah. So
Unless she becomes a monster, that'd be cool though.
no.
she got that G
Those
fuel.
G cells.
It'd be
We don't need
funny
that.
and bad, but kind of cool. Maybe.
I could take that in a weird way with like just like the traditional Toho Monsterverse, and if they did stuff like that, I'm like, I could be down with that. It would be weird as fuck, but I'm cool with it. Anyways, moving us on to the show jumps back into 1955. We're at the OG trio, and they're talking to Hatch about Monarch's dealings. Hatch is the guy who kind of swooped in and took over for everything after Shaw fucked everything up with his dick.
Hatch is the new Tim. Screw that guy.
Just the new Tim.
Tim was never bad.
I know, but I didn't like him at first.
Exactly.
Anyways, so
I like him now.
Hatch is claiming that they've been wasting government money and that it's basically like one big scam with Monarch. And he also says something kind of insulting to Keiko about her past because she used to be a Japanese like intelligence officer. And that's where Billy jumps in and like tries to take a swing at him, but Shaw pulls him back and stops him, which is another one of those like, one of the things that I like that they're doing with this show when they're touching on some of these deeper kind of elements that have to do with like the time period and the framework around Keiko is not only a woman in a government role, but also, you know, a Japanese woman shortly after World War II. So it's a very deep dynamic there of character interactions and struggles.
Racism.
And
Yes.
racism. That's the word.
And
Yeah.
that's what we
That's
would
just-
need more of, like, you know, because that was actually like interesting to look at, like how that's what I'm talking about. Like, I wish that this whole series, because I think it was kind of starting to go in that direction at the beginning, but I kind of wish that it was more like Andor instead of what we got. Like, you know, we're doing this, let's do love triangles and let's focus on that and
You mean
whatnot.
focus more on the political side of
Yeah,
things?
yeah, exactly. Because I think, like, when you have a series titled Monarch, and we know what Monarch is from the previous things, I wouldn't expect this. Like, it kind of feels a bit unnecessary to bring it in, but just like don't be the main focus of everything. Like, you know, I was messing around with this guy, but then with this one, and then, you know, my future kids are doing the same. Like, they're messing around with this and that, and I'm like, what why are we focusing on this? Like, you know, I want to know more about, like,
Chasing the Game of Thrones dragon?
yeah.
Maybe.
Like, you know, or just like what kind of, because we barely see any of the fights that they had to go through with the government and whatnot. Like, it's just mentioned and then solved off screen, and we're focusing more on like romance and whatnot instead of getting into that and talking about that.
Well, at least
Yeah.
it does touch on it here and there a
Yeah,
bit.
but the
and-
thing is, like, don't just touch on it.
Yeah,
Because it's not called Monarch Love Triangle of the Decade. It's called Monarch Legacy of Monsters. Like, you know.
but it's the legacy
Like, yeah.
of the love triangle children.
For actually.
I mean, it's called Birthright.
They do talk about that specifically, yes.
That it's
I
their
do-
legacy.
I do see where Liz comes from as well, like, because I was also interested in that sort of like after post World War II, sort of like what you said, like Japanese woman in US military, whatever. But I have a feeling that might have been the initial idea to have like two fully separate shows on each, but they didn't have enough. So this is like sort of like their compromise, where they have to take bits away from each in order to have like here's 10 episodes. We don't have the budget for anything else, maybe.
Yeah. I also agree that like I think the political take would have been more interesting, at least for me, but I like in Tom's mindset there, I wouldn't be surprised if the original scripts were more political, and then they were like, no, we got to like spice this up for American audiences because they're going to want more doing it and stuff because we suck like that.
Suck talking about sex.
Uh-huh.
But moving on. In 2015, we now have Tim is bringing in the current trio into Monarch. This was the scene that I was actually waiting for when everyone was like, "Oh, Tim's dead." I'm like, I don't think he is, because there's a shot in the trailers that we haven't seen yet, and that was this moment when he like says, "Welcome to Monarch," and he's bringing them through the like crowded little hallway full of boxes. Like, oh, goody, government work at its finest. But this is also where they talk about the Randa legacy. And they ask about like, how come there's no Randas up on the wall here? And he starts explaining like, well,
it's complicated.
yeah, it's a bit muddy with the randos and how that all comes together. He then brings them into the big control room, which is like, that's where this control room was the whole time. And it's like this big fancy high tech room with all these screens and things. And then just outside that room is a bunch of dark yellow hallways that Daredevil would be ashamed to fight in. So,
although it did look like that room is like the same one they've been using since like the 50s as well.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's all supposed to be the same area and location. Because then we get a later scene that does that as well that I'm going to get to. Before that, though, Verdugo was telling the gang there about Shaw closing and opening. And then when they did that, the gamma signals dropped off. But it caused every other opening to flare up, which I think the bit with May was pretty good. She's like, that sounds good. That sounds bad.
It's like that Simpsons one where it's like, you have the froyo, woo, but it's cursed. Oh.
The next scene has us going to Kazakhstan, and that's where we see that now there's been this giant like dome-like structure built over the original site that we saw Keiko get pulled down into in the 50s. Pretty quick scene. There's not a whole lot there other than just kind of like establishing that, oh, there's this new dome here now. Then we jump back into the 1955, and that's where Randa is in the office, and he's like upset about the Hatch guy insulting Keiko, and he punches the wall, and everyone's just kind of like, that was a very non-Billy like action.
Yeah.
Which of course he's immediately like, oh, my hand.
He tried to be tough guy, but then realized he was whip.
Yeah, I like how they switch between, like, you see Tim with the kids coming in that door, but then you also see, like,
it does that,
when
yes.
they switch to 1955 or whatever, like,
it's the same shot.
It's the same shot,
yeah.
But it's like with Billy and Shaw and Keiko. So that was kind of cool.
And then it repeats that too with Billy going into the office. And then when it goes back into 2015 again, it shows Billy coming into the office with the kids. And the hole is there from when he punched it. And they're like, you know, why is there a hole in your wall? And he's like, well, it's a government building. I've been requesting maintenance. Yeah, it's like, it's been there for a while.
Catch that.
They pointed out, they're like, there's a hole in your wall. Like a moment after Billy punched the hole.
Yeah, someone with anger issues.
Yes.
That's what he said.
See, that's the problem, because I don't catch these things when I start losing interest. So I'm like...
You put down your phone, Lily, and pay attention.
I didn't have my phone with me, but like sometimes my brain turns off when I'm annoyed with something. So I'm like, you know, I miss things. So because this show has so much potential that it started off like really great, and I feel like that we're doing a downfall in it. Like,
well, you're missing some of the good things. Like these are some of the better moments now happening in the show.
Yeah, I can't help it. And like, you know, they already started to go downhill. So I'm like, I can't help my stupid brain to work better.
Come on, brain.
That's fair. Brain. They've scattered cool little, like, either, besides from the big reveals and stuff, they scatter a few cool things throughout where, like, if you notice it, it's cool, but if you're like Lily, like, and you're just like, this is getting a bit boring because they haven't shown you the coolest stuff, you're easy to miss it, which I think I agree. It's like, you can miss stuff because of what they're doing.
And especially if you look at last week's episode, like I will touch on that real quick. Last week's episode had some really big reveals in it, but you might have been too distracted by the love triangle garbage to think about and realize that, oh crap, they just showed us the origins of Apex, which is like a big deal in the overarching narrative of all the movies and everything. But if you were too distracted by the bull crap that was going on in that episode, you might have missed some of that stuff.
I did forget about it the first time I watched it, because they showed the reveal and it was like, oh, love triangle, and then I forgot about it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but and the thing is that they now have so many characters and they are not focusing on them properly. Like poor Kentaro just basically stood in the background for the entire previous episode. And to be fair, here as well, like, you know, like do as many characters as you can focus on, and don't overdo it. Like, you know, I feel like that at this point they just don't know where to focus, and when they are focusing on one character like they did in the previous episode where it was mainly May and Kate, they just forget that, oh, we have other characters here that we should be, you know, do something with, and don't just have them stand in the background like some glorified extras. Like,
but I think that might tie back into like they have limited time, and this is what they've chosen to focus on. Like maybe they had all the grand ideas in the beginning, like and like they're probably like, oh, we've only got 10 episodes, and they're probably not banking on having another season. Like we're just like, let's try and get the story we want out, and some characters just fall by the wayside. I guess that's just like a production thing, maybe.
It's very possible.
Still shit. Still very, very shit. Because I agree. Because Kentaro and even like Shaw feels a bit sidelined at points as well. It's like he's like.
He's like mentioned and there, but like
I mean, to be fair, everyone should be getting sidelined constantly by giant monsters just destroying things. But then again, this is Monarch, not Monster Vision or Godzilla. Yeah.
I don't have a problem with that, because I think that was very clear from the beginning that it's more focused on like the human side of everything.
Of course. That's just me being a big old monster nerd.
But that's fair, you know.
Nerd.
Monster nerds.
Monster nerds.
Nerd.
So to get us back, there is we're in 1955 still, and this is where Shaw is talking to Keiko and Randa about putting all their information together and drawing a map to give to the general to say this is what we have, because they're going to lose Monarch otherwise. He's basically saying you have to give them something so that we don't get, you know, turned upside down and go under. Which, of course, Keiko and Randa are against because they don't want to share any information at all. But it's like, you got to do something or we're going to lose everything. And then this is where we get that transition to the future where Tim is showing the office to the kids and the hole in the wall, which we've already kind of touched on all that. And then they're going over all these files, and Tim says that there has to be something as everything ties together. And this is where Kate finds a report on Keiko's death and figures that this is where Shaw's going, because, of course, it's one of those things that just
a sentimental bastard.
Just kind of neatly works together. I mean, she makes the point about Shaw talking very adamantly about Keiko, and she's kind of like, you know, if I didn't know any better, I thought he was going to tell us that he's our grandfather. And we're like, we all thought that too. Yeah. So that was a little bit of a kind of like a nod to like, they were doing that probably on purpose to string the audience along to make you think that this whole time. So Verdugo is telling them that they're going to need this small team to go after Shaw. So obviously it's them of all people. It's going to be the kids and Tim, because Tim's like, I'll go. Why not? I'll go.
It made sense to me, because the way they explained how Kate said that Shaw was adamant that Kate and Kentaro and May go with him. Like how they wanted, they wanted, well, specifically Kate and Kentaro's like, I want you to, because you're going to carry on the business. So I want you there. So that's why that was their reason. Like, no, we have to go because he's not going to shoot us.
Yeah, because he's going to talk to them.
Yeah.
I enjoyed Verdugo saying that Goonies needed a sequel. Yeah. And I did not intentionally wear this, by the way. It was just there.
Oh, you did.
That's the second reference to Goonies that Verdugo has made in the show. So, like, bonus points for talking about Goonies.
Yay! Goonies.
Still haven't seen Goonies.
You need the Get Out gif.
Like, immediately watch it. Immediately.
Stop what you're doing.
So good.
Oh, yeah, but I was going to do the thing when I go off, but then I realized last time how I nearly fell off, so probably not.
There is a moment at this point, too, where they're going down the hallway and Kate and Kentaro have this like hashing it out discussion about why they're there and what they're doing. And Kentaro is clearly still very at odds with how he feels about everything because of Hiroshi's actions when they saw him. This is one of the little bits of dialogue Kentaro has in this episode. But when he does talk in this episode, it does seem like he has very good points and things that he hits on. Because he's got some later lines too that I'll get to.
But like that's the other thing. Like, they are inconsistent with the characters as well, because just a couple episodes ago, Kentaro was the one who was like, "Yeah, let's go, let's do this."
Yeah, they flipped.
Yeah,
Kate and Kentaro flipped.
Yeah, and I'm like, what? Like,
Well, they kind of acknowledge that in that conversation. Like
Mhm.
Kate actually says, like, you know, I was the one that was like screwed at, you know, and now it's the other way around.
Yeah, and Kentaro basically says like Monarch's the reason that they lost their father and their grandparents. So
But yeah, I like that part, that especially that conversation, because it seemed like he's now doing it for Kate, like sort of deal. So I like that. But yeah, I think one thing with this show, going back into like issues with Earl, I think once a character has their big like episode, like Kentaro had his in episode 4,
I think so. Yeah.
wherever it was,
Sounds right.
and then he just they kind of stagnate their character after that.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what I felt like, especially with you feel it most with Kentaro, because he had his first, where he had all that development, and it's like, okay, he's done now.
Yeah.
He's just gonna
Put him back.
Yeah.
Because then they did Kate and then they did May.
Yeah, and then Kate will come back to the forefront because she's the main character, I think, or like the one they had the most focus on. So she'll keep going, and then I think the other two will just kind of like be like here, and they'll be like, we're just going to keep on going, and we're not going to get much more development, which kind of sucks.
Yeah,
be outside of the few moments, like the hallway conversation and Kentaro's few lines later on.
We'll have to see what happens in the end, because that's one of the things we're going to get to as far as like the ongoing theories. But getting there, we are in 1955 again. Randa's in his office, or he comes into the office, and Keiko's like setting up lights, and she starts talking about the data that he's gathered over the years and how super inconsistent it is. And it's a bunch of like random bits from people who are either blind or like blurry pictures. And she's like, this isn't going to work. We got to put together real information. She also then stops to thank him for standing up for her. And that's where they start putting together some stuff about they start building out a map with like the information that they do know. So then we go back to 2015, and the new trio again is with Monarch, and they're heading to Shaw in this van setup team. And Kate says that they need to come ready to talk and not to shoot. And this is where Kentaro chimes in and says that Shaw wants us there to take over the family business. So he wants to talk to them. He was trying to get them to come originally. So that's why they need to come at it like the kids up front, not with them like coming in with guns and things. And they make that reference to Tim, like, weren't you just a monster nerds? And like, you guys are coming out packing with like bulletproof vests and guns.
Even though, funnily enough, when they get jumping ahead a bit, but like they don't go in first anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
But I also want to touch on back when like Keiko and Randa were like doing the map thing. Shaw didn't cock block. They were having a moment. They were doing bring back. But now we got to get to see him, and like Shaw just there listening. He's like, you know what? I missed my chance. Fair play, and just dips. I'm like, I feel bad for you, but like at least you're not an asshole like Billy was. Because
he's Wyatt Russell, okay? So he's the best.
Is that is totally relevant to his character?
Yes, it is, Dad.
because Lily loves them so much.
I do.
But that's a good point. I'm glad you touched on that, Tom, because like I kind of like glazed over that in the scene, but you're right. He does kind of like have that moment of he's acknowledging that they're getting closer, and he just kind of like and like walks off.
Yeah, he realizes if he were to do that, he would become, in his mind, he'd be the selfish one.
Yeah, and or he would just push them away more.
Yeah, because Keiko's already PO'd with him anyway because of the whole hatch thing.
Yeah,
like everything being taken over.
But here's the thing, though. Like, I think I can touch on it here. Because there is a very obvious difference between past Lee and present Lee, where past Lee is like, oh, we have to kill Godzilla and da-da-da-da-da-da. And we still haven't got to the point where he changes his mind and we get this Lee who's like, okay, we have to have Godzilla and we have to be on his side and whatever. So like, when is that change happening? When is it going to be where he's...
It has to happen.
There is a moment in this episode where Shaw says that he's been there when he refers to going into like the other realm or dimension. They don't call it Hollow Earth yet, but this is like they're basically talking about Hollow Earth.
Yeah.
And he does say, I've been there. So either they're going to leave it to the off-camera magic, or we're going to get a scene eventually where he goes, into the Hollow Earth and goes through the portal.
I'd bet money it's next episode.
I was thinking it's probably next episode.
Probably.
To get that
they'll go there, and then like Shaw will be weird. He'll know.
Because they'll have that mirroring the back and forth. They'll show them currently, which again, we're getting ahead of ourselves, and then the past there as well. So I'll try to skim over some of the middle stuff because it's the end of this episode that has a lot of the big stuff that we really want to get into. So we see the new trio getting to Kazakhstan. And then when they get there, they see that there's a big hole in the wall because Shaw's team's already been there. They have it where Tim steps on the exoskeleton of one of the bugs that we saw from the first episode or whichever.
Baby roaches. They grew so far because of all the nutrients of eating Keiko.
All the yum-yums. They suck up radiation.
Radiation.
They come to a central area with a large hole in the middle that has a portal in it, which is they're calling it a portal. The place has been rigged to blow up with a bunch of explosives, and then Duval pops out with a team and starts threatening them. And that's where somehow Kate stands up and is like, nobody's shooting anyone. And everyone's like, okay, yeah, you're the boss. Sure. But she demands to see Shaw, and Shaw comes out and he's like, okay, let's talk. But just you, Kate.
It was the school teacher voice.
Yeah, I guess. School teachers are like, nobody's doing nothing.
You're staying at lunchtime.
So there's this interesting moment where Shaw wants to talk to Kate specifically. And Brandy and I talked about this a little bit, and she's mentioned how because he sees Keiko in Kate. So we assume that's why.
But he also mentions that it's because she made eye contact with Godzilla.
Right.
I'm sorry, but that was so stupid. I was like, huh? Are you calling Kate in specifically because she made eye contact with Godzilla? And I'm like, what? Everyone was standing there. Godzilla has the eye that can be as big as I don't know, fucking 100 people. So he basically was looking at everyone at that point. If we think back on it, it just doesn't make sense. That's right. I'm going to just ask for you because you saw Godzilla and you know that he's he's not what he seems like. And I'm like, we're reaching a bit far with this.
I get where you're coming from, but to play the advocate here, there is a moment in Godzilla 2014 too, where the what's his face has that moment where he makes eye contact with Godzilla, and there's that little bit of I can see there's more there than just a big monster.
Yeah, he's not just a big monster.
Yeah, but come on, it's basically in every monster movie where you have a good monster and a bad monster, where they suddenly realizing that this is
but not with Godzilla though. Not with Godzilla.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. It just feels very forced. It's not the right reason.
I think it works well enough, at least in the narrative that he gets into about explaining that Godzilla isn't just a mindless monster. Regardless of the mechanic of how they get to that discussion, what matters is the actual point that he makes. That Godzilla isn't just a mindless machine that's just doing whatever the hell he wants. He actually has purpose, and he has the ability to think and plan, which has always been kind of part of Godzilla's character at its core.
He's not out to destroy us.
Yes. And this is where he explains that he has learned through some means and from going to Hollow Earth that Godzilla isn't, just a destructive force, but he's more of a protector, and he kind of polices both sides between the top and the under of the Hollow Earth and our realm. And that's the bigger point and takeaway from this conversation, even though it was kind of a silly way of getting there. But
it was a contrived way a bit. But even Kate calls it out, just okay, sure. So I think they acknowledge that it's a reach, but I think it also kind of shows that Shaw was grasping at straws himself to try and make a connection a bit. But yeah, again, I think it, like you said, Dan, it gets the point across, even if it is a bit contrived. And it's it gets from point A to point B to get the conversation going to lead into what they want to talk about anyway.
Yeah, and it could be more that he was just saying you looked into his eye, not so much that Godzilla and you locked eyes together, just more the being able to look and see that there is more to him.
Something more than just a mindless beast.
Right. Again,
bent on killing.
silly way of getting us there, but
yeah. I mean,
Lily's
it's
just so overtaken by
interesting.
salt. She's just like, "Rrr."
It's interesting to me when he's like, Godzilla is keeping people out of the other world and keeping the other monsters from invading. Like he's there to, keep the balance, I guess. He's the chosen one.
He's Neo.
Sorry.
That's dumb. That's stupid.
But let's be fair, we're going into that direction,
Oh god, I don't want it to. It's stupid. And then if that happens, I'm joining Lily on the salt train because that's fucking stupid.
Well,
I don't think that's the case, but
if you're taking it to an
It was just
extreme,
funny.
like I look at it from the what I actually hope to come from this show, as well as the greater Monsterverse with like the upcoming movie Godzilla vs. Kong. I want there to be a series of Godzilla versus movies. I want that to be after Godzilla vs. Kong. Essentially, there's a bunch of bad monsters that live in the Hollow Earth, and they all start trying to pop out and attack, and Godzilla has to stop them. Much like the old Toho movies, it was always Godzilla versus fill in the blank monster, and his whole job was to stop that monster from being bad. They can lean into that and make it where Godzilla has to stop some big bad with each movie and send them back into Hollow Earth, or just destroy them outright, like he did with the Mutos or Ghidra. So, as a Godzilla fan, I think there's potential that I hope they go with a series. Hopefully, we'll see. Or it goes just constant contrived bullshit, and then I'm going to get really irritated and salty too. So,
I have space on the soul train, so you are welcome to join.
all aboard.
All aboard the soul train.
like I'm still enjoying it. I'm still interested in what's happening. So like I'll reserve my salt
Like, please,
for the end.
please.
Fine, you can go on the pepper train.
Yeah.
The pepper train. So bringing us back around, back in the 1955, we had Billy looking at the map. He's trying to figure out what he's missing, and he sees an ant go in a hole in the map, and that's where he kind of like apparently births the idea of the Hollow Earth, where it's like, did Billy come up with that? I thought it was the other guy in Godzilla vs. Kong, but okay, we'll say it's Billy that came up with this idea. He didn't call it Hollow Earth back then. But anyways, we also have him going to tell Keiko about this, and we meet young Hiroshi. And this is where we learn that Hiroshi's kind of been there all along. And neither Shaw or Randa are the baby daddy. So
You guys are not the father.
not the father.
Didn't do the.
I mean, that's not to say that she didn't blink them, but she already had Hiroshi.
Yeah.
That's what I mean.
But then again, that does mean he's over 60 years old and running around chasing monsters in 2015.
Yeah,
which,
everyone
again,
is oddly old.
oddly old, but then also weirdly fit.
Yeah.
For their age.
Very spry. That's been my word of choice of this, is that they're very spry. So yeah, that's where we get some of this narrative behind everything, that Keiko has been trying to get Hiroshi out of Japan and with her in the States. And that's been a big part of her, ambition with Monarch and doing everything that she's doing. Plus, it also puts us to bed with all of our wonderful theories of who the hell Hiroshi is and who the hell they actually are. So we've learned that Randa is more of a, I'm assuming Billy adopted. Yeah. Like they wed or adopted just to help legitimize Keiko in the world of a Japanese woman in the 50s. So,
So wait, could it be more than they only married out of convenience, and then it kind of just like evolved into that, and that's why he apologizes to Shaw at the start of the series, because like you could have done it, but then I got there first or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure because Billy was aware that like Keiko and Shaw had a thing. We go back to 2015. Kate's talking to Shaw. This is where Shaw actually mentions the whole thing with Godzilla looking into Kate's eyes, that he's not a destructive force, blah, 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 blah. We've done this. He said, this is where it's like, okay, Godzilla's like policing both sides. And then it jumps back into 1955. This is where we see young Shaw is going to see General Puckett, and he's got the Monarch report. And Shaw is saying that the report that Hatch had given him had information withheld from Puckett. And he says, Godzilla's still alive. And this is where Puck gets like, whoa, hold on. Okay. He starts getting serious because he's basically saying up to this point that Monarch's dead until he hears that Godzilla's still alive, which I'm assuming Shaw's doing that without the others knowing.
But I liked this whole sequence.
That was a good scene, yeah.
Because it was, I really like it's just he first tried their way of just like, hey guys, trust. Here he is, just look at it. And then when he realized Puck was just going to be like, he was like, guess what? That big lizard, not dead.
Yeah, and immediately he's like,
the light.
Yeah, everything switches.
Like, oh shit. And it's like, because then Shaw has all the cards at the end of it. It's like, yeah, well, if you don't believe me, oopie days, you're going to fucking die.
Yeah.
I like how they kind of threw Hatch under the bus because they hadn't told Hatch that they saw Godzilla.
Nobody else knew.
Because,
nobody knew.
Yeah, they were keeping all of that from him. But so Shaw went straight to Puckett and said, he's not dead. Hatch failed to put this in his report. He didn't fail to put it in. He didn't know about it.
It was a big old.
So it's like,
I think that's going to blow up in Shaw's face, like massively.
Probably.
I reckon Keiko won't know, because I think soon after this is like when we link up to the timeline when she dies. But I think when Billy finds out, they're going to be like, no more. You go an old person home.
It's probably fair to assume it's going to blow up one way or another.
Well, it's probably after he goes to the Hollow Earth, whatever, and comes back and starts telling people about all this stuff. And they're like, you're crazy.
Yeah, you're nuts. So
you need to go away.
He also mentions that like he's very adamant to the general that a lot of this is due to Dr. Mira and Randa's loyalty and dedication to like kind of like ensure their positions. It seems like he's trying to lock in that, these people are the most important things for Monarch, which is like he's trying to solidify their position, even if his kind of implodes.
Fix his fuck up.
Yeah.
Which I do like how then like Puck's response is just like, why wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like without saying they were, he's like, I like that. That was cool.
And then we get to basically the final scene of the episode, which is back in the 2015. Tim is talking to Duvall about how everything that they've been doing could potentially destroy the world because they're seeing it as the more holes they close, the more likely the other holes are going to blow out in the planet. And that's where Duvall kind of has this like really emotional, like we're trying to stop anyone else from suffering a G-Day or loss. And if this could potentially save the world, it's worth doing. So there's this bit of a clash between them. And then back with Shaw and Kate, Shaw admits that this is to make up for losing her. He's trying to do this to kind of make up for the mistakes he's made. And he just goes ahead and arms the explosive and is like, all right, we got to go. And interesting enough, at that same exact moment, everything starts shaking and rumbling and there's a loud screech from somewhere. So assuming the triggering of the explosives also woke up some beastie nasties that were hiding out down there.
The big bug.
Yeah. And as everything starts shaking and getting all crazy, May takes a little bit of a stumble and starts sliding down towards the hole. Kate comes running out and tries to grab her and save her and fails. And Mate goes, bye-bye. Mate goes, woo. And then immediately the big bug comes up after her. So it's like May went down, bug comes up.
May is in the tummy.
Maybe they just high-fived as they were passing and like...
that bug covered the entire hole.
That's the other thing with the whole, like, we're introducing the whole Earth thing, where this was going. In the previous movie, they specifically needed, like, spaceships or ships to get into the Hollow Earth. And now we're just having people fall into it and survive. How,
I was thinking that. It was
for example, how...
Maybe that's why they called this a
Maybe
portal.
I was just gonna say maybe it's because it is a proper portal and not just an opening where they actually have to go through the inverse gravity. Maybe I don't know. They're gonna have to have some reason to explain how somebody would survive that traveling.
And not just that, but how is somebody getting back? Like, Show states that he was already in there. How the fuck did he get out? without any like human built ship or anything. Did he go like, hey Godzilla, can you take me out from here, please? Oh yeah, dude, I can do that for you. Yeah.
I mean, I believe the way the gravity works there is if you were to like fall through and then the gravity would still be inverse. So you would technically be on the ceiling and then you could jump back up through the hole and then you would come back out the way you came in. At least that's what it looks like in Kong versus Godzilla.
That would mean that he spent like a few minutes in there, and then he was like, "Oh shit, this is a bad place."
Jumps right back out. Maybe.
Yeah, I think in the next few episodes, they're probably going to try to explain it, but
they're going to try.
Like when I saw it happen.
That's true.
Do we know any physicists that can come on the show? Physicists.
Explain this bullshit.
Explain this shit to me.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
No, but it's like opening a plot hole in the whole thing when you have something established that you can only go into the Hollow Earth with these specific things, and now we just have people just fucking falling into it and surviving and coming out of it, and I'm like, what? Where did the logic go? Like, if it would be the other way around,
we did have that bit in the beginning, right when Billy talked about teleportation. Early on.
Being tinfoil hat crazy. Was he? I don't remember.
I don't know.
Anyways, I know I get where you're coming from, Lily. Like, yeah, I don't know how they're gonna explain this. It's gonna
be a plot hole. I'm just telling you already. Like, it's gonna be a plot hole in the
everybody. Bring your tinfoil hats next time.
Yes.
I mean, Kentaro was saying like we're here to get fitted for our tinfoil hats. So, but to close it out on this one,
flag fly.
There's the giant bug comes out. It looks like it's about to get a hold of Kate, and thankfully some rocks fall on it and kind of smash it back down into the hole. Shaw comes running out and tries to grab onto Kate and keep her from falling in. They both slip and fall into the hole. The explosives are about to go off. Kentaro books it, and then boom. And that's the end of the episode. So
all this does is make me feel bad for Kentaro.
Yeah,
but because the people important to him went in the hole.
Everyone went down the hole.
In the hole.
Went down the hole.
But like, is Kentaro dead though?
Yeah, I don't know how. There was like 3 seconds left on the timer.
3 seconds left, and it was his face cut to 3 seconds. Explosion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if
the portal pushed him.
That's. Ugh.
Well, we know he's not dead because of the preview from next week's episode. He somehow survived.
Somehow.
He may not have legs, but whatever. He survived.
Kentaro somehow survived.
He's just a stump, but
somehow returned.
Yeah. Yes.
Yep, that whole place went boom, but everybody managed to run out of there quickly enough somehow, miraculously. But so anyways, the preview for next episode, which is called Axis Mundi, the description on Apple says Shaw and May search for Kate and make a startling discovery. So we know Shaw, May, and Kate are in a hole, assumingly the Hollow Earth. The startling discovery. I wonder if it's Keiko.
Which is that's where it came from as well. My theory,
like no,
that's where when I read that description, I was like, oh fuck, she's not dead.
She's the leader of the underground people that are in Godzilla X Kong or whatever.
Could be.
Yeah.
Oh, like the group, monkey cult,
the group of the
monkey group,
and she's got Kong as a pet.
Yeah.
No,
the monkey people.
No,
it's just like
or a less disturbing and annoying explanation for this is that they just learned that there is the Hollow Earth and it's full of kaiju, and holy shit, there's a bunch of kaiju down here. That'd be more fun.
Or they find Keiko's remains. If she's dead down there, I think I can. That
be more okay with that. Like she's been living down there for a while and died.
Like she died of like the natural causes of Hollow Earth instead of like I still take that. But if she's like, oh no, she's alive and she has like glowy blue eyes, like the whatever, but like that's dumb. I hate it. It's
like the people of Atlantis.
And that's dumb and stupid.
But
And I
then,
don't like.
but no, look, if we're going with the logic that Shaw fell into the hole after Keiko, and that's how he got into the Hollow Earth, then why the fuck did he come back without Keiko? Like, you know.
Maybe he didn't follow her
Yeah.
initially. But we don't know that yet. We don't know.
They have a lot of explaining to do.
He must
That's the end of the
explain.
day.
In 2 episodes.
In 2 episodes that are probably both 45 minutes or less, they have to explain all of this stuff, make sure there's no plot holes, and make a satisfying conclusion without having a fucking cliffhanger.
Well, we already know the next episode is only 44 minutes.
Yay!
That's why it's 45.
And of course, part of the description also says that Kentaro struggles with his loss. So obviously he's going to be grieving like at least Kate and May falling in the hole.
Maybe Tim died. Maybe he's grieving for Tim.
Tim, no, not Tim. I'll agree for
not
Tim.
Tim.
Tim is a Time Lord. Yeah, he's going to be fine. Because everyone has plot armor. So, like, you know.
Let's go ahead and jump into our episode rating because I know Lily's just boiling.
Yeah.
Salt train full steam ahead. Choo choo.
Let's start with Brandy. What did you think of this episode?
Oh boy. So I'm gonna say like a 7, and I need a physicist to explain some shit. So yeah. I'm gonna say a 7 because I'm confused. And now talking to you people, I'm even more confused.
More confused.
You're welcome.
Tom, what did you think?
I'm also going to go for a 7. I was going to go 6, but that interaction between Shaw and Puckett pushed up to 7. Like, there was enough moments that I enjoyed, even if some stuff felt a bit contrived. But yeah, there was those cool little character moments that I wish we had got more of. But yeah, so I'd go with 7 for.
I'm curious now because we gave last week's episode a 7 because we were all annoyed with the love triangle garbage, but this episode's only a 7 too.
Because I said I would have given it a 6, but the only reason I gave it a 7 is because of that one scene. Besides, I enjoyed.
I mean,
last
I was
episode way
gonna
more.
push this one a little bit further, but
I'm still like shocked that we wouldn't have made last week's episode lower because everyone was so bluff about everything.
I was tired.
All right.
And I
Fair enough.
But like again, that's my thing. There was enough that I enjoyed in last episode as well to give it the 7, even given into consideration the whole like aspects.
The Apex thing was really cool. Like that was interesting. But yeah, like I'm still enjoying the series as a whole. So it's like I don't want to rate them too low because you know. But again, I'm very confused about the portal thingy falling and not getting.
It's very scientific.
Yep.
All right, Lily.
6 at best.
Yeah.
Like at my previous rating would be a 4. Just so you know, like I wouldn't even give that a 7. Like I don't know what you guys were smoking to give it a 7.
Well, the myth is good here in Australia.
Yeah. Okay. Good. But
really.
no. This is a 6. This is a 6 at best. Like, you know, there were some interesting things in there, but like mostly I am like, you know, my predictions are coming true that we are leaving everything to the last 2 episodes. And I am not even convinced that the next episode will solve anything that was set up. Like the fact that we started off with these 2 half siblings searching for their fathers. At this point, we kind of let go of the father because, like, you know, we are after Sho currently and not after Hiroshi and following Hiroshi's route and trying to find him. And I'm like, what? Like, you know, I think they are keep losing focus. I think the love triangles are just not necessarily at all. And I feel like that there was good writing here, especially at the beginning, but it's slowly like going downhill. And I don't know how they can pull it back up with 2 episodes left.
So yeah, I guess like my lack of salt makes my opinion on this episode a lot higher because I'm more towards like an 8 on this one because I thought it was a fun episode. It had a nice brisk pace. I liked the jumping back and forth and matching the shots between the timelines in the same setting, seeing different characters in the same shot. I thought that was cool. I liked how they're kind of like tying everything together. I like how they're relating stuff with Godzilla. Yeah, like some of the writing is weak in some parts, but stronger in other parts. They didn't really fart around with any of the love triangle nonsense in this episode, which to me was an immediate, like, I'm glad I don't have to think about that crap. We had the past love triangle that we've all been okay with up until recently, I think. And at least we have the acknowledgement of like, okay, Shaw knows he fucked up and now he's stepping back. And then Keiko and Billy are starting this thing that we don't know if it's necessarily a like romantic relationship or more just a mutual,
like a partnership,
right? Like a mutual scientist helping each other out kind of thing, which is, you know, like I'm a little biased in that sense because I relate to the man stepping in and becoming like baby daddy and helping out Keiko in that sense. And I don't know, I enjoyed the action. I enjoyed how it played out. And I like that. Cool. Now we're just going to jump right into Hollow Earth. Damn, who cares how they explain it? It's going to be stupid. But again, I like the stupid. I'm here for the show to go bonkers and be crazy because
I mean, it is Monsterverse. They do tend to get stupid and it's kind of fun.
So I don't know. I guess again, like I feel for you, Lily, and Tom and Brandy and all your concerns, but at the same time, I'm just kind of like, yeah, but I'm having fun, which is fair.
But that's the thing. Like, I it's fair, obviously, but like, I wouldn't have a problem with it if it would be more fun. Like, I wish they would like if they would decide that okay, we are just gonna lean into the stupid. If that makes sense, like you know, they know that this is like all just
Either
go all into the stupid or all into the science.
Hard in the last few episodes, and we can be like, all right.
But like, what I mean is that don't try to be serious next to it. Then, like in a way where you're like, when they say that like you're taking yourself too seriously, or the show is taking itself too seriously, and I think it's like it just unable to find a balance between like, okay, we know that this is dumb and we're just gonna have fun with it because it's dumb, so why the fuck not? And just being like, oh, we're so serious, we are a political drama, and then blah, blah, blah. Like decide what you want to do.
Yeah, that's fair.
It definitely has a bit of an identity crisis for sure.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Well, here's hoping.
I mean, I'm still enjoying it for the most part.
Last two episodes are just gonna be fun.
That's gonna be the make or break, I think. Make or break is where they land, because
it'll either flop and be dumb, and we're all gonna be like, it had so much potential, or it just goes batshit, and we're gonna be like, okay, it was worth it.
I would much rather have them go batshit with it. Yeah. If we're looking at what the Monsterverse looks like currently, like it would be better if they would like be like, okay, yeah.
If the fact that the new Godzilla X Kong movie is on its way and is coming out just a few weeks after this show wraps is any inclination, like we already know from the trailers of that movie that it's going bananas with that whole storyline. Yeah. So if they don't try to at least lean into that a little bit, because they could be setting this show up to feed into that movie. They could.
Yeah.
So again, it could be setting that up. It could be they're interweaving this whole thing that's going to be like, now go watch Godzilla X Kong and see what happens because of what happened in this show. Like they're building up to that. The fact that they wrapped Apex in there absolutely could lead to that.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
It would still piss me off though.
Yeah. I just want it to be fun. That's all I want. Especially if we're going to get more of the show. We don't know that. This could be a one-off. They might try to do another season. Who knows?
I kind of hope it's a one-off.
Yeah.
I don't want so much. It's too overwhelming. Don't want that.
Well, that's going to do it for us this week here on the Monarch Files. Be sure to join us each week at 2 p.m. PST on Tuesdays on Couch Soup, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Hopefully, we have lots to look forward to in the coming weeks as we wrap up this series. But thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Lily. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Brandy. Be sure to visit couchsoup.com and feed your hungry kaiju soul. Good night, everybody.
Monster turd.
Monster turds.
Banana soul.
Whoa.
Lily's microphone is going to be just
Whoa.
spit bubbles.
Gigantic turds.
That's why don't we ever see kaiju turds?
Exactly. Where's the ship?